I got something really cool for you guys today. Something I've been kind of keeping under wraps because I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I received a lot of emails and comments about what I'm gonna do for a spare tire, and I have a solution. And I'm gonna get back a lot of the space in the back of the truck, but it's not gonna be a swing down or swing out carrier. I'm gonna go for a TireGater. My buddy had this floating around his shop, and I traded him some parts for it. Now I just need to modify it so it will fit in the K5, because the K5 is a little bit wider in the tailgate than the new Silverados and stuff like that. But this thing's awesome. I do have to do some modifications. I'm gonna show you guys today what we're gonna do. But let's get this thing on. I'm fired up. This is the TireGater. Basically, it replaces your tailgate with a tire carrying device. And it does swing out to give me access into the back. But I have to widen it because this and this aren't as wide as here. So let's measure what the factory tailgate is, and I'm gonna make some cuts here, 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 and here to sleeve it out. Here we can see the difference. This is the lower bar. This is what's gonna mount to the vehicle. And everything's lining up. And then over on this side, you can see I'm about 4 inches short. Now, I do have a challenge of getting these mounted to the back of the truck also. So there was the thought to just extend those out, but I thought that would compromise the strength. So, one center cut right here, sleeve it out, this piece will be done. I'm choosing to do 2 cuts up here and 2 cuts down here to keep this whole piece centered. But that's all it really takes to get this thing to fit, and then some clever fabrication on the other sides. If it's gonna be clever, I should probably get someone else to do it. Okay, let's make some cuts. Okay, and this guy's gonna be cut right in the middle. This is 26.5 inches. So cut this in the middle, drill some holes, and let's burn it in. Here is the 2-inch 90 wall tubing that is going to bridge the gap between the 2 pieces once I've sleeved it. I'm sleeving it with 175 120 wall, which fits in here pretty much perfectly. So I'm gonna cut myself here. It's gonna be, that's gonna be my cut. Now I'm gonna take probably a 1/4 inch off of this, because when you are sleeving tube, the way you're gonna do this, let's show you here. So I'm sleeving tube, right? I am going to, so if I've got to slug this piece, I'm gonna drill a hole right there. This I'm gonna do a rosette weld on. And this piece right here, when I have the tube, let's grab the tube that I'm using. This is what I'm using for a slug on it. This slugs, there's my rosette, and I'll do another rosette on the other side, and this will be the middle piece. But what I want to do is I'm going to leave a gap so I can run a nice weld all the way around on this. Time to do it. Final cut is going to be this slug right here. That guy's going to slide over. So I've got 5 inches here, so I'm going to add 3 inches on either side for a total of 11 inches to slug this bottom piece. So let's cut this, drill some holes, and melt some metal. You can see how it's sleeved. So this is probably gonna end up being the strongest point of it, which is another reason I wanted to do it in the middle. So let's drill some rosette welds, or drill some holes for some rosette welds, and we can finish this guy. So metal is prepped and ready to burn in. I'm gonna just tack this one side, tack the other side, and then we'll measure one more time. There you have it. These are both lining up the same. What is that? That's 66 3/4. .66 5/8, and I'm gonna cheat that out just a slight little bit. Okay, there it is. So here's the section that I added in. You can see the rosettes. These were a little bit harder to fill, but that's fine. Yeah. You can also see how much my truck is bent that I've got to fix. But this side is looking better. I got a hydraulic ram coming that's going to help with that, I hope. But yep, that's how that piece lines up. Looks good. Just need to do the top piece and we'll be in business. 2 cuts here, 2 cuts right down there with the help from El Senor. And this thing will come apart. Sleeve it, slug it, rubber tug it, snug as a bug, in a rug. Okay, 2 more cuts. Let's do it. You gonna help me?
Yeah.
All in place, as you can see. I've cut the sleeves, I've cut the slugs, I've cut the tire carrier itself, and I just put it up there to test fit. Let me show you how it's lining up. And this gives you a good idea of how I'm doing this too. So essentially, well, you're gonna best be able to see it up in here. You can see this is my slug inside, and then there's the 2 pieces extending it out. I'd already measured, so I knew it was gonna be about 5 inches. And yeah, that's where we're coming up to. This is exactly where it needs to be. So I'm gonna drill some holes and mark some stuff, but really stoked on this guy, man. That's starting to look really cool. You guys may remember that my cage is a little tweaked. Combination of my flop and I think coming down off high dive without a bumper. So I'm going to try and straighten it right now. So you can see the carrier is on. It's being stretched. And I need to close up that gap. And you can see underneath I've got a little bit of a... So basically this side should come up. I'm going to use this ram, which I haven't talked to you guys about yet, but this ram is awesome. Hydraulic ram and hydraulic pullback ram, which is what I'm going to be using right now. So I'll hook this back up and I'll check in with you guys before we start it. This is awesome. And not at all dangerous, I'm sure. So, I mean, this is solid. This webbing, I'm not too stoked on that. But this is either going to work quickly or it's not going to work at all. So here's what I have been able to do. I'm basically tensioning and transferring from one to the other. So I obviously have the strap tension right now. I'm going to pick up the slack in the ram and then I take it a little bit past and then go back to the strap. No real change yet, but I did just get down onto the frame, so let's see. Okay, let me just preface this by saying this is incredibly dangerous and probably pretty stupid. So, needless to say, this is what I'm measuring right here. Seeing if this is getting closer. And it is. It is getting closer. It's a lot better, I think. And then up front, see that cross member? That's starting to line up a whole lot better than it did too. So I'm going to slowly crank on this a little bit more. And we'll see. But I'm a little sketched out. Okay. Little by little. It's a game of inches, millimeters. Tension on this, tension on this. Although I should be able to release those in just a minute, but I want to get both bolts in before I do that. It's lining up, it's coming back. And here we have it. I've still got to paint, but you guys can see it's in. It's lined up pretty well. I need to do a little bit more work here. As you can see, it's not quite lining up perfectly yet. That one's pretty good. But this one is still getting some leverage from this. So this still needs to be bent up. I feel like what I'm going to end up doing is tying it into the roll cage right here with a junction so I can unbolt it if I need to. But that's probably going to be the easiest thing. Probably do it up here, probably up there. But yeah, and then the tank. This is where the tank's going to go. Once again, stoked on how this has come out. Decent amount of protection and coverage, and it is up and out of the way. One of the dilemmas I have been having is, how am I going to apply force to certain parts of the truck when other parts of the truck that have to remain rigid and unmoving are gonna bend before the piece I need to bend is gonna bend. So let me tell you what I'm talking about right here. That, I believe, is a result of my roll. I believe the cage shifted this way. You can see it a little bit in the shock. It is very noticeable in that bump stop. And then up front, you can see it once again, like I've told you many times, in that cross member. My challenge is, if I attach the ram to here and to here, it's naturally going to leverage this piece over before it makes any change to that piece. Doing my whole tie off the tree worked to a certain extent, but what I ultimately need to do is drive this side up and that way. it's slowly getting better. I mean, putting this bumper cap on it made a huge difference. But I just had an idea that I think is gonna work. Here's the plan. I need to drive this up. The problem is, any force you apply to this, it just lifts the truck up off the air, into the air. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loop some chain around this and tie it down to a railroad tie down here. The ram will mount off the railroad tie to here. And as I drive up, it'll pull this side down. That's the plan, at least. In my head, I see it working. In reality, it might be very different. But hey, this is the whole work with what you got. I don't have a frame table. I don't have anchors sunk into the concrete. I just gotta get creative. Okay, we're gonna give that a shot here in a second. And fingers crossed. This is the Harbor Freight Ram that I picked up the other day. And it also has a pole come together that's up there that I haven't used. But here is the mess right there. That's gonna be holding the truck down while the Ram drives up on that piece. So here's the before. Let's see if we can make it any better. It's actually getting a little bit straighter. When speccing out this fuel tank, size was of critical importance. If I went too big or too deep, the axle was going to hit it as it worked through its travel. Now, with the link suspension in the rear, I've got a very predictable arc of travel, so I had no excuse to making sure that it did not interfere with the tank as the truck suspension cycled. That was a lot harder than I thought and came down to, man, like 1/8 of an inch. I'm happy it's in, it's gonna work. Let me show you what I'm talking about. It's right under here. There we go. As this moves up, it's gonna wanna hit this gas tank. And let's move it to where it should be. I have roughly 9.5 inches until contact. And that happens to be right about there. So yeah, we're not gonna have any issues. This was a concern of mine though. I was worried that it was gonna hit, but it isn't. And that is great news. The strike pads are done too. This is some plate. It's actually same plate as this. I used a hole saw that took forever. And then this is a piece of link tubing that I cut to fit over the axle tube. And then I just welded it all together. And this is gonna go. Yeah, there may need to be a little bit of clearancing because I am really close to that spring, but I don't think that's gonna be an issue. And then a little bit of paint makes all the difference in the world, huh? There we are. Closer and closer. The only remaining thing left to do, well, there's always a lot, but right now is to put a piece of tube connecting from here to here. This will help stiffen up this tailgate area. and it'll be removable because I'm using one of these tube connectors. Final pieces of the puzzle coming together here. It's getting straighter. But what I'm going to do is, this is the piece I was talking about adding in here for some stability. Now, I've cut it. This was just some scrap tube that I've been practicing notches with. But you kind of get the idea. I haven't figured out exactly where I'm going to place it, but this is a true 90 and then this is an 80. Just to add some stability to this guy. I'm happy with how it's starting to line up. In particular, I really like the angle that I've got here. This bottom bash is going to be rotating back up to here. And so I'm gonna have to cut that guy down. I like how low this is. This is what I'm not sure about yet. It's sitting kind of wide. I'm not that particularly worried about it because it is going to help nerf off rocks, and it's not that much wider. I'm probably, when I change rims, I'm probably going to add or take off an inch of backspace. Those are 4.5 inches of backspace, and I'm going to go to 3.5 inches of backspacing to push the tires out a little bit. And so then, yeah, that would be good right there. But yeah, it is kind of wide. But the TireGater is sitting up there pretty well. There you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. My fabrication game is still pretty rusty and rough, but it's getting a little bit better. I'm practicing cutting notches with the bandsaw because that honestly is the way to go. Do not use a tubing notcher. They suck. So this is the way to go, cutting them with a bandsaw with a program where you basically cut a template out on paper and tape it on, and then you get your idea of where you need to go. And it's working. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Merricks Garage. If you guys liked what you saw, make sure to give me a subscribe right there. I've got a button you can click and you will get subscribed to my channel. I've also got some other videos I think you guys might like to check out right here. Go give those a look and make sure to keep coming back. Thanks for watching Merricks Garage.